All right. Who has our first out? The Beta Band.
That's
Is
me.
that Matt? Okay. The
All right,
Beta
so
of the group.
the Beta Band, the three EPs, coming in at number 355 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 41 in 1998, number 2001 of all time. It is the Beta Band's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. Did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Band is ranked number 1,169 of all time. In the opening montage, you heard Dry the Rain, and now you're going to hear a clip from She's the One. All right. So this is the three EPs. This is actually not an album. It is exactly what it says it is. It is a compilation album of the first three EPs that the band produced and sent out.
A rare breaking of our rule to not have
I know.
compilations.
This is the compilation, yeah. But it's a little, I don't know. It's kind of like they just did it right after they came out,
Right.
you know, so it just put them all together. So it was released, this incarnation of it was released on September 28th, 1998. Artists that had influenced the Beta Band include Beck, Jethro Tull. I found that interesting. Primal Scream. There's some callbacks, CTS callbacks here, guys. Primal Scream. Yeah. Talk. Flaming Lips. United States of America. We haven't talked about them.
Wow.
CTS.
Yeah. A couple krautrock bands in Can and Kraftwerk, as well as Pink Floyd, Radiohead, Blur, Stereolab, and the Beatles. Their highest charting album is 2001's Hot Shots 2. That hit number 13 in the UK and 200 in the US. And their highest charting single is 2001's Broke/1. Genres include folk rock, post-rock, and experimental pop. So the group was formed in 1996 in St. Andrews, Scotland by Steve Mason and Gordon Anderson. They did record an EP called Champion Versions, and that was released on July 25th, 1997 on 12-inch vinyl only. So this is the first set of songs. Each of the there's a total of 12 songs on this the three EPs compilation, and each one 4 songs of each are comprise different EPs. So the first 4 are from Champion Versions, and this also includes songs that were initially included on a demo tape that they sent to an A&R rep named Phil Brown at EMI, who then sent it on to a gentleman by the name of Miles Leonard, and he's the one that actually signed them to a deal with Regal Records.
Can I cut in for 1 second,
Yep.
Matt? Just, is it funny that I can't hear EMI without thinking of that Sex Pistols
EMI!
song?
Yeah.
Continue.
Around this time, they added a drummer, Robin Jones, and bassist Steve Duffield, as well as DJ, sampler, and keyboardist John McLean. So they became a 5-piece here, but they also shortly after recording the EP, Duffield quit and Anderson left. So and then they brought on bassist Richard Greentree. So then more like a foursome from that point on. The second EP was released on March 2nd, 1998, called The Patty Patty Sound. And that was, despite its length at 40 minutes, so the middle 4 songs, a total of total 40 minutes in length, was still dubbed an EP by the band and the press. Going back to many albums, that 40 minutes is actually longer than full-blown albums. So that begs the question: at what point is it an EP versus, a regular album? I guess, I don't know, whoever decides.
Can you have an EP with a 15-minute and 30-second song?
Well, this is, they say you can. So the Beta Band's like, nope, this is an EP. So whatever. Their third EP, Los Amigos del Beta Bandidos, or The Friends of the Beta Bandits, was released on July 20th, 1998, and that comprises the final 4 tracks on this compilation. And shortly after that, they decided to release all 3 EPs, and in September of 1998. The cover of this record includes a image from each cover of the individual EPs, and the 3 EPs was, we've talked about this in our text earlier today, but that was prominently featured in the film, in the 2000 film High Fidelity. That's where Rob Gordon, played by John Cusack, tells his coworkers that he's going to sell 5 copies of the 3 EPs by the Beta Band. and he puts on Dry the Rain, which is the opening track of this. And then the patrons start grooving, and we assume that people start buying this record. So that was in that film. So a couple of quotes here. So frontman Steve Mason later said, quote, "At the time, I just thought this was the way that all music should be made. I hated the people who were just in bands. Who the fuck wants to be in a band with a guitarist and a bassist and a lead singer? All this Britpop shit has been rammed down everyone's throats. Honesty and experimentation were our weapons of choice." So they clearly were trying to zig when lots of British bands were zagging, not wanting to do that whole Britpop thing, so being a little bit more experimental. And in 2000, Q Magazine placed the 3 EPs at number 74 in its list of 100 greatest British albums ever. And Pitchfork placed the album at number 23 in its list of the top 100 albums of the 90s. So I also know that Oasis, actually, despite them getting, I guess they kind of were thrown in the Britpop lane, they very much like the Beta Band, as did Radiohead. I believe I saw the Beta Band opened for Radiohead when they toured in 2001. So that was the first time that I had heard of them at that time. So that's about all I got on the bio right now. I know we're going to be covering them again, at least according to the spreadsheet. We're going to be covering them during the next season, so we can do more there. But yeah, fairly highly regarded album here. And let's see, I will start with John on your take of the 3 EPs.
Yeah, this was quite the ride, wasn't it? Like the first time I listened to it, it was a beast of a listen at 78 minutes, and you quickly realize the Beta Band is one of these artists that there isn't a Beta Band sound. I'd say the Beta Band sound is, let's try all kinds of things, right? From psychedelic to drum and bass to long form proggy type stuff to borderline jazz stuff. There's krautrock-esque stuff here and experimental stuff, some stuff that would be a little bit more traditional indie rock. It's really covering the full gamut of things. So when that's happening, I think at 78 minutes, this album was a lot, and I decided the second time around to listen to it as the individual EPs themselves. I dug, like, where did it start and what would it... So when I listened to them, I split them up. Like, I listened to the first EP, then I did a listen of one of our other albums, then I listened to the second and the third to kind of do that. And I realized that by far my favorite of the 3 EPs was the first EP. My least favorite was the second EP, mainly because there is a 22-minute stretch of the house song to Monolith, which really took me out of the long form, full 3 albums. Like, that 22-minute section was 23 actually. It's pretty ponderous. I think Monolith is one of these things that they were going for something, and that thing they were going for just didn't speak to me at all. And unfortunately, that thing they were going for that didn't speak to me at all was 15 minutes and 50 seconds, and that's really like a buzz killer, right? As like a miss, I would say. And then the third album I would kind of put in the middle. To me it's a much more mellow set of tracks. I'd say first EP more accessible in terms of the sounds you'd be looking for. Second EP a little bit more experimental. Third a little bit more mellow. All of them though have quite a bit of experimental. So accessible and mellow aren't exact terms, right? Like the overriding theme of this album is experimental and playing also with contrasts, right, within different songs, bending different sounds. It's not surprising to me that Radiohead likes this band. There's a lot of things they're doing that I could see could be really interesting to how they were perceiving music around this time, and knowing what they were going to be getting into with Kid A and Amnesiac down the road. It's not hard to draw a line from this to that. Oasis, interesting. I would not have thought they would have been a patron of this band, but go for it. It's funny that you mentioned Primal Scream and United States of America, because I didn't write down bands that I thought this sounded like, because it sounds like so many, but when you said those names, I said, oh wow, I could definitely see that sort of psychedelic, almost like built in a laboratory type rock that the United States of America had that I really liked. And also sort of the mix of psychedelia and like bright late 60s 70s pop that Primal Scream had. Like that is in multiple tracks on this album as well. I think for me the barrier was like finding and I would say I give this a slight thumbs up for me. The barrier for me was like finding a hook that I would want to return to on this album. I found this album to be interesting, and I found this album to be illustrative in terms of as a gateway between stuff that happened before and stuff that was going to be coming later. It definitely was connective tissue to some of that stuff, but in terms of as a pure enjoyment album for me, the two tracks that you picked, Matt, "Dry the Rain" and "She's the One," were probably my two favorite tracks of this album. I liked B plus A as well, and "Dog's Got a Bone," and "Dog's Got a Bone," B plus A, and "Dry the Rain." Those three tracks are all within the first four, and they all fall on the first EP. Hence, why that one connected to me. While it wasn't a total barrier, it is a lot of like 6-minute songs. So if I'm there for it, I'm enjoying it. I could let it ride. But 6-minute song after 6-minute song, when you're jumping this much, you have to be careful to not get into that idea. And I wouldn't listening on CTS, but in my day-to-day life, if I had an album like this, I could definitely be tempted to occasionally hit the skip button for the stuff that doesn't interest me as much. I don't even know if the beta band would be offended by that, because I think they'd just be putting stuff out there and see what you think about this. So I respect that. This is also one of these things where I have no clear idea of how Josh's going to feel about this. I think I have a little bit better of idea how Matt's going to feel about it, but I could be wrong. I've got some other thoughts, but I'll weave them in later. Josh, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I like this album. I have almost the same kind of experience that you did. I really like that first EP a lot. I like kind of the 60s retro feel it has. I also kind of like the krautrock elements that they bring in. I mean, hence this kind of 6-minute songs. They're really trying to explore kind of the space with a lot of these songs. And this album did get better on subsequent listens, I found as well. I did kind of face that long song as a barrier as well. That was kind of a sticking point with Monolith. That was really probably the most experimental. And I know, John, you said that you felt like this was a band that maybe have a different sound every album. I assumed or thought that this was showing the evolution of their sound, because I felt like they increasingly got more experimental as the EPs went along. I
would agree with that. Yeah. Although I think the second is a little bit more experimental to my ears than the third.
Yeah. So I unfortunately thought, well, maybe albums after this, after the EPs sound more kind of electronic and have more of that sound of the second and third ones than the first album. So that left me a little disappointed, because I was like, well, what if they don't come back to this sound, then I'm not gonna like it as much. But those first 4 tracks are really great. I thought that, I also, like you, John, I thought that the album was interesting as a whole. I found it definitely fits in and is more accessible than some of the other kind of electronic experimental. This isn't truly purely electronic either. I don't want to label it that. It's definitely got kind of a rock underpinning, but I think the krautrock label is apt. They're kind of trying to do that.
And they throw in a lot of sounds like xylophones and organs and stuff too.
Yes.
So.
And then they also start kind of incorporating sampling too, as we'll see with Boards of Canada, kind of found sounds or rate, audio snippets on repeat. They do that in Monolith a lot, but they do that later on as well. Overall, I thought, I kind of vibed with this album on subsequent listens. Would I skip some of the tracks like you did, or would suggest, John? Yeah, probably. But I think there is stuff here that's worth mining and like listening to and mulling over. And I liked it enough that it left me intrigued. Matt, you said we're going to be listening to another Beta Band album. Like, it left me intrigued as to what's in store. I really didn't have any, despite knowing that quote from High Fidelity, I didn't really have any expectation as to what this band was going to be like. I just totally forgot kind of the small snippet of music that they put in that movie, and then I just never followed up and listened to it. So I'm glad we sought this one out and listened to it, though. What'd you think, Matt?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if it was last week or a week before. Recently, I talked about how, I would, back in the day, I would hear of a band, I would hear a song, and then I would be like, oh, I really like that song. I want to get into that band. And then I would not go back and buy the album or listen to the album that song was on. I would just buy subsequent albums, right? And this is a good example of that, because Dry the Rain, I remember that from High Fidelity, and my brother put it on a mix CD that he made for me. Like around 2000 or so, and I love that song. I still do. That's a freaking great song, and it's a great scene in that movie too. Like they put it, the part of the song that Cusack puts it on is at the end with the horns and stuff like that, and yeah, it's just got a great vibe to it. And so I never bought this album or listened to this album, so this was a first listen to me. I actually got Hot Shots 2, which was the album that came out. Maybe that was their second proper album. So this is a new listen to me, except for Dry the Rain. And I really like this. I probably agree in your assessment, John, about like the hierarchy of the individual EPs. Probably the first one is Champion Versions is the more consistent one. It's got the best song on. Dry the Rain's probably their best song on here. And then I know B+A. I mean, you got they do instrumental stuff too, right? There's a jazzy element to it.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
There's great bass lines throughout, and so you're getting some different types of sounds and different productions. The second one, I see what you're saying about the house song, although I think I like that better than you might have, John. Monolith was interesting because just a couple minutes in, I was like, okay, here's the Revolution 9 of the record, right? And we've done songs like that before. Pearl Jam had one of those on Vitalogy. I think the Pearl Jam and the kind of like these long 10 whatever plus minute quote unquote songs that are just like a bunch of sounds essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's others like off the top of your guys' heads. Those are the ones that always come up that I always think of, but I'm sure maybe there's been one or two other ones that we've done throughout this stretch. So if you think of one, let me know. But this one I found, at least this was not nearly as intolerable. Like Revolution 9, I have zero patience for, right? The Pearl Jam, I don't even know what the name of that track. Hey Foxy Morphodelia, that's me, or whatever the name. That's this really long title. Whatever.
Well, like every last track by The Doors would fall in that category, if you remember. Like they always end like a 15-minute song.
But it was an actual song though. Like the end was an actual song. This is just like kind of noises and slices of things, and like kind of like total experimentation. It's not even really like a song. It's just compilations of things, which I would say for this, at least for this one, I could listen to it the whole way through and not like immediately want to change it. There were elements throughout it, right? It's not something I probably am going to put on a lot, and I quite possibly could skip it. But when I did sit to listen to it, there were parts of it that I kind of found interesting and liked, and I definitely heard the step in, the influence of something like a presidents of the United States, not presidents of the United States of America, but the United States of America. Those '60s kind of experimental kind of things, like like a little bit of Uj Mutantes, kind of like stuff like that was a little bit in here. The psychedelia nature for sure. But also kind of, off the foot forward as well. We've talked about that in a number of different records as well. But I did find that the Patty Patty sound, the second EP here, the middle part with Inner Meet Me and She's the One, sandwiching those two more experimental songs, those were great. Those were some of the best songs on this whole thing as well. So they might have challenged you a little bit in the middle there, but they really kind of bookend that with some two great songs that I thought really really great to vibe to. And then the last one, just another 4 great songs. They were shorter. That one's maybe more of a true EP, because what's the longest song on here is Push It Out is 5:22. You've got kind of like a beatnik, a double bass, stand-up acoustic double bass that's playing on, I think it's Over. That's kind of like an interesting vibe. So they're throwing a lot at you here, but I found the whole thing really engaging, really interesting. Yes, 78 minutes. It's basically, I think they figured out, hey, we can put all 3 of these and basically be an entire CD, because I think they might have like 40 seconds left on the, I don't think CDs go much more than 78 minutes. So they're really kind of stretching it there. So maybe the way that you listen to it, John, is the way to do this, is to break it up in the way that they were originally intended. Because the 78-minute, that's long for any record, really. But I didn't mind. But having said that, I also didn't mind listening to this the whole way through. So I enjoyed this quite a bit. I found myself liking this more than what I remember liking Hot Shots 2. It's been a while since I've listened to that record, so it'll be interesting to go back to that and hear what I think of it again now. But this was probably my album of the week, actually. I really found this interesting. I enjoyed pretty much every song on here, and even the stuff that I didn't enjoy as much, I wouldn't say that I hated. Even Monolith wasn't something that I hated, but that is a little bit more of a challenging aspect of it. But for 78 minutes, you've got 15 of those thrown in there with that experimental song. That's okay, I think. So yeah, so thumbs up for me, and this kind of definitely portends to more stuff that Radiohead did, and certainly that's one of my favorite bands. And so I really dug a lot of this stuff. So yeah, big thumbs up for me. I enjoyed it.
Is it me, or does it seem like with some of these recent shows that we've done and albums that the krautrock influence has become coming up over and over again? I feel like it's like a popularity wave or something. Like
right.
Stuff we all listen to is now like back in fashion in the late 90s, or like people are discovering it or something.
And you missed it last week, Josh, because we talked about during Midnight Vultures with Beck. There was definitely a Kraftwerk song.
Yeah.
Like it directly.
Yeah,
it was a Kraftwerk song. Like totally.
It was not throughout the entire album, but it was like 2 songs that were like one that was literally like, oh my gosh, that's like Trans-Europe Express right there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yes, but you're right. You're right.
Or
that has come
World,
up
sorry.
a little bit. A couple of times recently. So yeah, krautrock resurgence here, which
exactly.
I'm all right with.
Yeah.
Krautrock lives on in the souls of every experimental artist.
It really does.